going to turn in a moment to our guest, Troy Miller, the president of the National Religious Broadcasters, but I wanted to play for you, if you're just joining us and you weren't around for it, some remarkable broadcasting yesterday from J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, talking about his relationship with Charlie, with the Kirks, in the aftermath of this, in number 58.
As do many vile people. Now, hours before this smear was published, my wife and I had the honor of escorting Charlie's body back to his home in Arizona. We took his wife, Erica, we love you, his parents, his sister, and a few of his best friends with us. And as they offloaded Charlie's casket from Air Force Two, I worried that Erica would collapse with grief. Now, I'm a very lucky husband to a very wonderful wife, but I have never been prouder of my wife than that moment as she held Erica in Erica's very darkest hour. And I thought of Erica as I read that disgusting attack on Charlie. He had children, as do many vile people. That's what they said about him. I said the Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I asked Usha what Erica had said to her earlier in the day in a private moment, and I asked Erica's permission to share this. My wife told me, she asked me for advice. Erica asked me for advice on how she should tell her children that their father had been murdered. She asked my wife how to tell her beautiful kids that their father and my dear, very dear friend is no longer with us. And as she was doing it, there were people dancing on that father's grave. Now, I have heard many calls in the last few days for unity and for healing in the wake of Charlie's assassination. You have no idea how desperately I want that, how gratified I was when Democratic friends and even former Senate colleagues reached out to offer their condolences to me. I'm so thankful. And I know there are so many like them all across our great country. I am desperate to wrap my arms around them as we all unite to condemn political violence and the ideas that cause it. Psalm 133 tells us, "Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. It is like the precious..."
And he continued, and I could sit and listen to that all day long. But Troy Miller, I bring you in because, as president of the National Religious Broadcasters, I couldn't help but think of you and your organization and the things you and I have talked about over the years. What a remarkable moment in broadcast history. Number one, that it's a vice president of the United States. I mean, that unto itself is historic. But that he so frequently invoked Scripture, he invoked the Lord's Prayer. Troy, God is moving in even this dark hour. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Chris. And you're exactly right. What a historical moment for the Vice President of the United States to step in Charlie's show and to host it as a honor, as a tribute to Charlie, and then as a continued tribute to Charlie. Relied so heavily on his faith, on Scripture, as you said, and pulling people in that direction.
I was opining a little earlier in the show, Troy, about why Charlie's murder seemed to resonate with people that maybe heretofore had not awakened to how vile and dangerous things had become. I feel like you and I have talked over the years. Most people who are listening to us right now have been paying attention for a number of years and have been pretty alarmed at the trajectory of the politics and the discussions, if you want to call them those, in this country. Something about Charlie's death, maybe this was a Pearl Harbor kind of moment where a lot of people woke up and said, oh, things are serious now. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I do think it was that kind of moment where people just woke up. I think there was a sense from people, especially people kind of in the middle, on either side of the line, that, that a lot of what they were hearing coming out of the left was just rhetoric. It was just show. They don't really mean it. But didn't realize how damaging it really was. That the left really, they meant it when they called for violence. They meant it when they were calling people fascists. They knew the implications, what was going to happen. And look, we're starting to see the story unfold, that this young man was clearly indoctrinated in that kind of rhetoric and that kind of hate. And so I think it is. I think the nation is waking up, and I think people are waking up, especially Chris, especially those folks that were on the left middle. I think they are looking at their side and going, this is crazy.
Troy Miller, again, president of the National Religious Broadcasters. My show is a talk show. I'm not a religious broadcaster by definition. I'm a talk show host who largely talks about secular politics, but I'll just speak for myself when I say I've prayed a lot in the last week about how to use the privilege that is this microphone, Troy. And I guess I'll ask you, have you thought about that? And what would you say about that to all of us that sit behind a microphone and have any kind of audience? What's the responsibility in the aftermath of something like this, in your view?
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's a great responsibility for us to understand the power of our influence today and the power of the influence of communications. Look, we know that people spend more time, unfortunately, in social media and listening to podcasts and other things than they do, actually interacting with real people in the world. So we have a responsibility to lead people into good debate and good dialogue, but not to lead people into violence. And, the most interesting thing about it all, and the sad part, irony of it, is that was Charlie's message. Charlie's message was never a message of violence. He never called for violence. He may have called for laws to be changed or policies to be changed or for people's thinking to be changed, but he never called for violence. He constantly spoke against it. But yet, and Charlie did that because he had a great argument. He felt like, I have a point to make, and the point itself is powerful enough. I don't have to shut anybody down, and I certainly don't have to call for violence against anybody. And that, as broadcasters, as communicators, we need to have that same attitude. Is our message strong enough, or are we just so weak that we need to back up and say, this guy's a fascist, that guy's a fascist? How many times have we heard, take President Trump out? It's crazy.
It's a tough and sort of ugly thing to say, and I don't ever mean for it to sound insensitive or calloused. I hope people understand the vein in which I mean this. For Charlie to die the way he did, that tells me he was one of the most effective communicators in our midst, maybe of an era, of a generation. I mean, when someone is driven to murder someone like Charlie, in a weird way, Troy, as a communicator, there can be no greater compliment. I hate to say it that way because I know it sounds odd, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And look, it was, Charlie's effectiveness in his communication, the way he communicated to those under 35. I don't know that anybody across this country was reaching that younger generation the way Charlie was reaching them. And that it was understood. I think that's why this person wanted to silence Charlie. I think they saw Charlie was having an effect on their friends, on the people around them. And look, and again, it's because Charlie stayed on message. He was solid in what he believed. He held tight to his convictions. He didn't sway with the wind of public opinion. He believed in Jesus Christ. He believed in the gospel message, and he knew that was going to change people's lives. And he even defended that people have the right to make their own choices in life. But he felt that the things he was talking about were the choices that were going to bring them better fulfillment in life and joy in life and make this country better. And that is the reason he was silenced, period. End of discussion.
Troy Miller, president of the National Religious Broadcasters, your convention coming up again in Nashville. Looking forward to it. It'll be my third visit, something that I didn't even know about a few years ago, and now you and I have become friends. Your organization is an important one. I've seen membership, just since I've been attending, just explode in popularity and interest. Charlie and his death has probably only helped accelerate the interest in what's going on at NRB and the message that so many that attend are sharing.
Yeah, exactly. And we've heard from a number of people, and you can just see it on social media. People are understanding that even in their individual spheres of influence, they have a voice, and their voice is important. And the voices of broadcasters are important, Christian broadcasters and communicators. So I think you're going to see, not what this young man who murdered Charlie was expecting. I think you're going to see people just rise up to take Charlie's place and to continue that message of hope and that message of there is a better life out there. So, yeah, we're helping a lot of people in that area get started and become better communicators.
I've got about a minute, but you and I saw you from afar. I wasn't able to say hello, but I saw you at the Museum of the Bible a week ago. I mean, that's how that week started. President Trump calling for a national weekly prayer for the country. It ended talking about Charlie's death. There was something about that really struck me, Troy, with just a couple of seconds left.
That's right. We started that off talking about, religious freedom and people trying to silence that and discrimination. And then the president calls for a national prayer initiative between now and the 4th of July to pray for our country, to pray for particularly unity and to bring us together. And then we end the week talking about this tragic death of Charlie. I think the president couldn't have done anything more important than to call this country to prayer. And even now, we need to pray for unity and peace across this land.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.